when we perform together, we're doing something that is far greater than any of us individually can do.
Right.
And that's it's the same with anything, in any team sport or whatever. But that's not to be taken lightly in life, because as I said long ago, we're animals created for community, and we have to learn ways to understand other people, get along with other people, and help other people help us be our very best self. And in so doing, help them to be their very best self.
Welcome to the Choir Baton, a podcast designed to engage with people in stories, ideas, and inspirations stemming from choir. No other art form, no sport, no hobby, no business requires a group of people to execute a communal goal with just their voices. Join me, your host, Beth Philemon, as I interview guests who are singers, teacher conductors, instrumentalists, and community members. Together, we'll ask questions, seek understanding, and share insight from our experiences in life and in choir. Hey, Choir Baton. Welcome to our 60th Choir Baton episode. I could not be more excited to share with you. Today's guest is my high school choir teacher. She is the reason why I do what I do, why I believe in the power of choral music. The 4 years within that room would dramatically change the course of my life. And right now, so many of you that are teaching, whether in a high school setting, a college setting, a church choir, or community choir setting, are faced with rehearsal spaces that do not look like your typical rehearsal spaces. And I know at times you are questioning, is what I am doing still making a difference? How am I still having that impact on students? Because that is ultimately, at the end of the day, why I chose to go into this. Very few of us, in fact, very few of us that I really know of have stuck with this craft of teaching music to others, just using our voices, because of the music itself. The music is the conduit for the relationship. And it is my goal, my hope, my prayer, my mantra, that this episode is a reminder to you that the relationships still happen, the power still happens, the connections still happen. While they might be in different settings and spaces and places, it really is about the people. And you are still doing that. Thank you, Ms. Cov, for being a guest on this podcast. And if you are watching this on YouTube, well, here we go. You'll see me tear up from time to time. Choir Baton listeners, I am so honored today to have with you one of my biggest role models, and just the reason why I'm here and why I love choir and why I am the person I am. And this is going to go real well. I'm already crying. I'm so honored to have my high school choir teacher, Miss Diane Covington, on the podcast today. Welcome.
Thank you, sweetheart. It's, one of the greatest things about my position where I am in my life now is watching so many of my former students adult. And you guys are adulting so well. And that's just one of the many benefits of teaching for any length of time, but particularly for a long time, and being able, thanks to social media, being able to stay in touch, and also the local coffee shops where we all meet. Meredith says I have more coffee dates than anybody she's ever known, and I said that's because I can now. But I actually cherish those. David oftentimes will say, okay, who are you meeting this week? But those are Those are very important. I don't take that lightly at all. It's so important for me to continue to stay connected with my students, because when you teach what we teach, it's heart to heart. It's not, it's not just brain to brain. Our art is an emotional art. And if it's not an emotional art, in my opinion, it's not done right. We can have, I'm getting probably ahead of you, but we can have notes and rhythms and vowels to perfection. But if the heart's not there, it's noise. It's clinical. It's noise. It doesn't speak in it. And that's what we're supposed to do, in my opinion.
Yeah. My dad always said that one of the things, and we know my dad does not give out compliments lightly. One of the things he loved most about watching you interact, in the 4 years I was a part of the program, and then my sister being a part of the program for 4 years. So you had Philemon Girls for 6 years, was what you brought out of every student, not just us, and pushing us to work hard, not to where it was drudgery or you felt like you had to, right? But it was instilling that passion and that love. And I think it's a testament to how you taught, which was heart to heart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, I'm a farm girl, and I'm sure, heard me say many times, one of the things I want to teach is a good work ethic in whatever it is you're doing, and passion. Because I just pray that people find passion in what they're doing. Those of us that are teachers know that we don't do teaching. We don't teach for the money. There needs to be passion there. And I use music, of course, is what speaks to me. And that was the language. That I often joke, and all of my students know that I often joke that English is not my first language, because I don't have a great command of really intelligent words when I'd like to sound more intelligent. But music is my language. As a piano major, and then later in life, when David started working on his master's and PhD, even though I didn't go and get mine, we were in the same field. So in a sense, I did get mine. And that's when I just fell in love with choral music. And I'll tell a tiny bit about the fact that I never intended to teach public school music. Can I say all that?
I never intended to teach public school music either, for what it's worth.
Yeah, I never did. I was at Mars Hill College as a piano. Well, piano was my instrument, but I was there as a church music major.
If I knew you were church music, I knew piano, but I don't know if I knew church.
Well, after my freshman year, they stopped that degree. And Mom still has the letter that I wrote, because that was way long before cell phones, shortly after the chisel and stone. But Mom still has the letter that I wrote, just totally distraught. What am I going to do? I knew I am not a performer. I mean, performance is not what does it for me. The teaching and the learning and the experience is what does it for me. So I knew that I didn't want piano performance, and neither did I ever think I wanted to teach public school music education. Right. But those were my options, So my piano professor, who has been very, very dear to me for years and years and years, said, I know you don't want to teach public school music. However, I would suggest that you get this degree. Who knows down the road how your life may change.
Right.
So I said, okay. So I did all the stuff. I got the degree.
Yeah.
And those were super, super, super wise words. And I've told her many times, because suddenly, about 8 years later?
Yeah.
We were put in a position when David went back to get his, his PhD at Florida State. And I needed to do something. And lo and behold, I did have this little degree, which wasn't valid anymore, but I took care of that real quick. And that's where I got started. And actually, knew beyond a shadow of a doubt I was supposed to be there during that time.
Wow. So this was in Florida, right? People
Yeah.
that don't know you, you are married to a wonderful man, Dr. Cov, as we called growing up, who does have his doctorate in choral conducting and master's from FSU. And then they have 2 children as well, Meredith and Jonathan, 2 granddaughters as well. Now, lest we forget them, but you were still a young married couple living in Florida, and you
Mhm.
began teaching middle
Mhm.
school choir.
Yes. Those were the years from hell, if I could say that. Well, for so many reasons.
Right.
With David being a full-time student, we had to have every income we could get, So he had several part-time jobs as well as being the full-time student. I was teaching for the very first time in my life. And also, we together shared a church job. So it was, I was playing the organ, and I'm a piano major, never an organ lesson in my life, but I was church organist. So that was fun too. It was difficult, but we made it work. And I look back on it now and I just see handprints on it all the way, leading us and preparing us. And that's where I fell in love with teaching in a place, in a school that they had run off the last several choral directors. And it was very low income school, but that's where I was. And I finally started from scratch and really kind of got to love the children. There were 32 when I started, and 5 years later, there were 250. So, and then we moved away. So,
But that middle school, and I firmly believe anyone that's taught middle school, and whether you stay in that setting, but especially then if you go on to teach older students, you realize that it's all teaching middle school. It's just with bigger bodies.
exactly right. Exactly right. When we moved to Raleigh from Tallahassee, we called that our capital move, and there were a couple of middle schools open, Corley, and
Yep.
then there was one high school. And I was like, okay, what do I do? What do I do? And David was the one that encouraged me he said, well, you can do middle school. Why don't you stretch a little bit?
Right.
And so that's what I did. And I was really kind of frightened. Like I didn't know, what it was going to be like. And the school had existed 1 year prior to me being there. And I got my hands on a tape of what they had done the prior year
Yeah.
and felt so much better. I just said, I got this.
Yeah.
Not in any kind of cocky way, but yeah,
Right.
those are voices. I know what to do with voices.
Right.
And it also amazed me that some of my silly warm-ups that my middle school kids loved, oh, the high schoolers just fell all over it, just loved it.
Yep.
So you're exactly right. Just
Yeah.
bigger bodies, bigger social problems usually,
Right.
but bigger bodies, yeah.
Right. Right. Well, I want to make sure that we don't skip over, your celebrity moment at the middle school in Tallahassee.
Help me remember, what was that?
Well, if you have studied choral conducting in the United States, there is a big chance that you have watched a piece of like monumental choral VHS-ness that is from
Oh, that was back in the day.
that I know, right? People, maybe someone's listening to this and going, "What's the VHS tape?" But no, and that is it was what you see is what you get, wasn't it?
Right.
That one,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
right?
Right. Rodney
So,
Iker. Mm-hmm.
yeah, if you were the middle school on that tape,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We were, and that was again a huge boost for those children. And I'll tell you that I only taught in 2 schools my entire career, that middle school in Tallahassee and then Leesville High School. Social, economically very opposite.
yep,
And for that school in Tallahassee, those students didn't have a whole lot that they could succeed at, or generally speaking, right?
right,
And when we sang well, I took them to festival. For the school had not been to festival in years, and they got superior, and they just thought that was awesome. And it just was, I just watched these children bloom with confidence
Yeah.
self-confidence and pride and knowledge, and
Yeah.
besides the fact of what it does in our hearts when we join in with other people to do the same thing. So yeah, that was pretty cool.
I love that. I think that is one of the greatest gifts of teaching in a school setting, that students often find themselves not an right, exactly what you said, not in opportunities to succeed. There's not always people around pushing them there. There's never a doubt in our minds, right, that students will rise to the bars with which
Oh,
we set for them.
absolutely. Absolutely. One of the things that comes to my mind when you say that is when at the Leesville High School, we were given the opportunity. We were selected as one of 2 high school choirs throughout the country to, with the Weill Music Institute at Carnegie Hall, to learn and then perform at Carnegie the Berlioz Requiem, which is not high school material. And I remember thinking I would be I mean, all the requiems that we love, the Brahms, the Durflay, blah, blah, blah. And, I listened, I did not know the Berlioz.
Mhm.
And so I got the score and I listened to it. And I thought, wow, there's a lot. This is deep. This is hard. And, I really I questioned it for a little bit. Like, can I get high schoolers to, number one, sing this, and to number 2, understand it, and to number 3, love it? And I accepted that challenge, and that basically that year was kind of built around that. Obviously, we did other literature. You can't have a year of Berlioz, not in high school.
Yeah.
And kill the kids. But I will say that is one of the highlights of my career, is that watching that performance at Carnegie, and then I, had to go up and take a little silly curtain call. But then I was backstage when those students walked off that stage, and I was backstage and I high-fived every one of my students when they came off. Big, robust football players, everybody, tears streaming down their face. And what they said to me was, my life is forever changed because of this experience. And it was a lot of things. It was the fact that we knew it was hard, and every day it was literally blood, sweat, and tears, and learning that. And then when they did learn it, that sense of pride and accomplishment. And then we studied it. Of course, we studied his life. I just made a whole big to-do about it.
Right.
And then to go and to perform that with the orchestra in that hall,
Right.
they still talk to me about that. So that was a cool moment.
That is amazing.
And so you're right, back to your point, students will rise to our expectations, which then means it behooves us as teachers to plan,
Right.
to think, to dream, to stretch. Otherwise, they're not growing if we don't stretch them.
Right. Right. You talking about connecting in those moments with students and lifelong connections. One of the most memorable moments I genuinely think of being here in quarantine, right, has been you recently felt called to unite a lot of your students, and you taught at Leesville for how many years? 20,
19. Mm-hmm. I had a year in sick leave, so I call it 20, but it was really only 19.
Yeah, yeah. And got a bunch of us on Zoom. A lot of us knew each other, a lot of us didn't know each other, and that was so moving. I can't imagine that for me as a student. I can't imagine what it was like for you.
It was so fun. I was scared to death, and thanks for your help on that.
Oh,
prior to that, because I just, obviously I've done Zoom a good bit. I teach private piano through it right now, but I had not done anything like that. And I wasn't sure if 2 people were going to show up or what. And it was just an hour. And I think we had about an hour and 10 minutes before we shut it down, of sheer joy,
right.
Seeing folks that I hadn't seen in years and years.
Yeah.
And then seeing folks that I am in touch with, and not only connecting them to me and me to them, but them to each other. And I definitely plan to continue doing those. I'm going to narrow it down, as I say, the scope, according to graduation years, and so that we can reach more people. And this time right now, particularly, all of our lives, because we are communal animals, but right now particularly, when so much of community is blocked off from us, we need to utilize and celebrate the communities, I think, that we have and that we love. And we did create a good community.
Well, I think that's such an important reminder, even for those that are listening or watching this, is that every school has a community of alumni. And just because your classroom might look a little bit different doesn't mean that you can't connect with them, either offset from the classroom or bringing them in. Because that's, I think, one of the things I loved most, right, around those Christmas holidays, and maybe you loved most too, because it gave you a break. Because I'll be real, I know that now.
You caught on, did you?
But, alumni come back and they take that center chair and you ask them, how's the food?
That was always my first question. How's the food in college?
Yep.
Yes, that connection was good. And that was really important for them, for the alum that came back. But I think it was also very important for the high schoolers sitting in those seats to see somebody that they knew that had gone away to this big thing called college.
Right.
And, then still felt the connection enough to want to take time on their break to come back into high school and to sit in on that classroom. Yeah. And it was interesting because my kids, the current kids, would always want to sing really good that day, because the last thing they wanted was you guys, the alums, to come up to me after class and say, man, it's rough this year, isn't it? So it was kind of good all around.
Yeah. Everything, every good thing I ever did as a teacher was either directly stolen from you, or at the root of something that I learned from you. I often said and I didn't even go to college to be a music ed major either. I just kind of stumbled into it. But we often said too, the 4 years I spent in your classroom were better than any methods course or, any type of thing like that, because, there are teachers and then there are craftsmen within teaching, and that is you. And so I want to kind of like dig in a little bit to that. And we've talked about having that work ethic, that farm girl work ethic of always wanting to do more and learn more and go farther. And I can think, and just, I didn't know you until probably about 10 years after you'd maybe been at Leesville, but in those 10 years, since I started, and you got your national boards, right? You'd been teaching 15 years, maybe close to. What drove you to go and say, I'm going to do this now?
Well, several different things. One, I do consider myself a lifelong learner. And I always try to teach that, not only through saying it, but also being an example of it to my students. Thus, when I learned Takadimi, I had to start all over with my teaching.
That was my next question. You read my brain.
No, that's just part of, being a lifelong learner, learning what's better. Oh my gosh, this is a little better. This is a little clearer than, what I've been doing and what I learned. So why not? Yeah, let's take it. But, what was the question originally? Sorry.
Just that drive to go and do your national boards and to go and learn Takadimi and,
Yeah. Sorry. This happens at a certain age. But yes, David was very instrumental in that, because he always said, because since I put him through his master's and his PhD, he turned around then and said, okay, you need to and I clearly, to be honest, I was a mother of young children, and I had sort of been through it with him. I didn't want to go through it for me, to be honest. And I was also working at the time, teaching. And so then when national boards came around, that's, I started talking about that. And he said, that's it. That's what you do. And so he was very encouraging there. And I can remember Jonathan was still living at home at the time. And I had this, when I take something on, I sort of go all in. So, I mean, I bought, yellow's my favorite color. I bought all kinds of yellow folders and, yellow expandable things. And I bought a yellow candle. And the kids knew that when I lit that candle at my desk in our bedroom, that was Mom's not here. Mom's focusing. Yep. Jonathan, little bless his heart, would send little notes under the door. He'd slip a note under. How you doing, Mom? When is supper?
Oh, I love it.
So that was very continue. That was very eye-opening as well. I did learn a whole lot from that, particularly in different cultures and world music and stuff. I mean, music theory, music history.
Right.
But and then of course I think I've always been fairly, I don't know if good is the word, but I have always reflected on my teaching a lot. When the students left, in my mind, in addition to preparing for the next class, shifting gears, is how do those children feel walking out of this room? How many times did y'all leave the room singing, going down the hall singing, right? But, and that was something that was pretty important to me, is I didn't ever want to leave a rehearsal on a bad note. And that's obviously, you know what I mean? If something not so good had happened in rehearsal right before the bell, I needed for them, as well as for me, to find a positive tilt to it.
Right.
Before they left, and also another weird thing about me is I always used to straighten the chairs between classes. Our chairs, we had those, those singer chairs.
Yeah, they were band risers, and then the winger chairs that sat on them.
We had the winger chairs, the winger singer chairs. And I just always, as you know how it is as a teacher, you've always got somebody up asking you a question in your face, when the others are walking out. And then by the time they leave, somebody comes in for the new class and asks you another question, which is fine. And by the time there's no time to go to the bathroom. But while you're talking and answering your question, I'm walking around straightening up about 80 or 90 chairs. And I did that. I don't know if I did that. I did that, I think, a little bit for me, because a little bit of order is good for me. Yeah. Chaos makes me feel a little weird. But I always wanted my room to be an inviting place to go, to be straight. And when the next class walked in, like, she's expecting company. It's us, So that was a little thing that kind of helped me, and also I think helped the children.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that, people hear with their eyes, feel with their eyes, that visual aspect. And that is one thing I should say I never mastered as a teacher or in life. There is a reason why you can't see what my desks look like, but that is not, that is not in my wheelhouse, but something that I even will say decor. This I did take decor, even in the room, was simple, right? Like there wasn't a lot of distracting stuff.
No.
And
I'm not, that. Go ahead. I'm not a bulletin board girl,
Amen. Woohoo!
Yeah, that's not my calling. A place to put announcements and stuff like that. But yeah, I was actually a very jealous teacher. I think I would sometimes say that to y'all. I need both your eyes. I need your eyes on me. I'm a jealous teacher. Keep your eyes on me, because as much as data is so tremendously important in our art, probably other teaching areas as well, but I can talk about my art. In our art, I get data from looking into somebody's face. Mm-hmm. I got my data by watching them, watching their body language, watching their eyes. Are they glazed over? Are they clicking? Does it work? And, so when you look across the room and you've got 60 to 80 people or 30 or whatever you've got, you're gazing, you're glancing across the room to see who's getting it. 2/3 are with me. There's another third. I got to go find them. I got to find a different way to say it. Right. I got to do a different kind of teaching, right? Kinesthetic. Let's do something. All right, get up, make a circle. We're walking this one, right? How many times do we do that?
Right.
It's amazing to me what I found out in that a lot of students cannot walk in step. That just blew my mind.
Yeah.
You know? Okay, so just walk to the beat. We're going to sing, da da da, and it was amazing. The ones that could and the ones that couldn't, which is probably a whole nother conversation.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I do also have to say this is like the biggest tip I think for anyone. You're going to laugh. When I think of bulletin boards, as much as I'm not a bulletin board person either, and it's so right, I've never seen a bulletin board of yours ever, but it makes sense. I mean, my kids made fun of me because mine never changed once I got there. Like they just stayed.
Yep.
But how you write the dates on the board.
I have to give credit to Dave Albert for that one.
Oh,
yeah, I do. I do have to give credit for Dave. Dave and I shared an office for 19 years, and he was the band director. And he taught me that one. And when you get into crunch time, say the holiday season, right? And you've got for all your different classes and all the different performances, you've got 8 or 10 things you're going to list, right?
Yep.
You start at the top with the last thing. And then, that's the day we get out for holidays, all the way down to November the such. And then as you accomplish one, you just simply wipe it off from the bottom and you work your way up. Yeah, that's pretty cool, actually. And it's visually inspiring too, isn't it?
It really is. I mean, I've done it it's brilliant. Well, Dave Albert did it. Maybe we should.
Yeah. Maybe we won't tell him. No, I'm just kidding.
So it's so funny that you bring him up because, I think of how fortunate I also was to see the relationship that you two had, different as you are. I mean, you are very different people, but the respect that you had for each other as musicians and educators set a precedence for not just me, but everyone, of also collegiality within musicians as well.
Mm-hmm. Right. It was unique. It was a unique time. I look back on it and I think respect and we became very good friends, still are to this day. We still go to lunch the first day of classes every year. That's what we decided we would do when we both retired the same year. Every year we would go to lunch the first day of classes and have a glass of wine because we could. and now this year, I have to say, this year it was a virtual lunch. He had lunch and I had it out in my reading garden and we Zoomed and we had lunch together. But yeah, we did. And we helped each other in a lot of different ways. And I have to say this about him. He was also very open to incorporating some choral ideas in his top-notch band. And he would have me come in there sometimes and conduct, like that was, I was looking at the score like, oh, okay, flutes, where are you on this page? But so that he could just see another form of conducting and see how the kids would react. He saw me with you guys circled around the room so much because I just think teaching in the round is really super cool. And next thing I know, I look up during my planning, I look through the window there and he's got his marching band, even though they weren't marching, they're standing around the room playing, having a rehearsal in the round. So yeah, it was a really good relationship. Yeah, and still is to this day.
He is, he's a good man. He's a funny man. But
he pays on the odd years and I pay on the even years when we go out to lunch. I told him I can remember that because he's odd. He can take it really well.
Oh man, he is, he's so funny. He lives in my parents' neighborhood, right? So
Yeah.
sometimes when I'm driving to my parents, I like pass your neighborhood, but I see him out walking. And he was always, again, so complimentary for you. But I think or of you and the master teacher that you are. And I just think that is a testament also to lifting your other colleagues up.
Oh,
Even when you don't
absolutely.
always necessarily agree with everything they
Mhm.
do or teach, or even who they are as people,
Right.
right? Generally
Right.
speaking, but lifting each other up. And that is one thing, Ms. Cove, you also did within our community of teachers, right? Like you, and we've often talked about, right, like the glory years of when you were teaching, and you had such an amazing group of teachers that you leaned on within our county, I feel like.
Right. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Again, I've been blessed in many ways, and one of those ways is being here in Wake County and helping, and helping to establish a cohesiveness
Mm,
to the high school choral directors,
mm,
and we would meet once a month, um, and it was not in any way, shape, or form competition. My school's better than yours, you know.
mm,
We all tried to help each other,
mm.
and then in times we would email each other out and say, who's got 45 copies of X
Right,
octavo,
right.
send it through. We did that so much, and just helped each other on and tried to give each other encouragement. So that, you're right, that's super important. If I just think, if we don't have that with among our teachers, our colleagues, how can we expect our kids to have it? I
Woo!
mean,
Say it again for the people in the back.
well, if we don't have collegiality amongst the teachers, the adults that are looking at us, how can we expect the children, the students, the high schoolers to act as a group and to love each other and to get along even when they don't love each other? So yeah, we got to emulate that all the time, basically in life and in world, but in the school system. Yeah.
Yeah. So you talk about getting along. You have led many a school choir, and a lot of which have not gotten along, I'm sure. And you, as that, maternal figure, I guess, leader figure, a little bit of all of those things, have seen that. How how have you sought to build unity? Because more than ever, that is what we are charged with doing as music educators during this time, is
Right.
building that community, building that unity.
Well, I think the first thing that I always tried to do at the beginning of a year when I was meeting new students or greeting returning students is be myself and not try to be somebody else, because you're going to fail. You just need to be yourself, and you need to try to be your best version of yourself, which means being prepared, right? And then once you've got that preparation down, you know what your goals are, then go in there and openly love and respect the students. It's not, so therefore, I'm not on the defensive or anything. I'm comfortable. I have learned what I wanted to teach. I know where I'm going. And therefore, I invite the students to join me on this journey. And I try to make it just that, a journey. So once they see that I literally care about them and respect them, um, then it's returned. It's a two-way street at that point. It's mutual respect. And then once we've got that, and they believe that I actually know what I'm doing, and it took me a couple of years at this school to make that happen, because I looked at the first couple of years there, I think they looked at me like I had horns growing out of my head. But then we got that fixed, and I took the horns away. and um, but once they believed that I had their best interest at heart, then I found that I could pretty much lead them anywhere. And that is, number one, awesome. And number two, it comes with such great responsibility. I would try to tell them at the beginning of the year, if your parents come to a concert expecting to hear the top 40s, please tell them to not come to our concert, because I'm not going to teach you what you already hear and know. That's not my job. My job is to educate you and to teach you songs that you don't know, everything that you don't know. You don't need to be taught what you do know. And I never had students reject a song. I would sometimes reject it, after I passed it out and we spent, maybe a rehearsal or two on it, then I'd kind of just let it, in my mind, I already knew, it's not working. This is not what I thought it was, not a good arrangement or whatever. And then I would just let it sit in their folders for a while until they sort of forgot about it. And then one day out of the blue, I'd say, everybody pick it. Would you pass in? Everybody? Yeah, okay, good. Because it was my mistake. That was a bad decision. But I really never presented a piece of music that was rejected. Sometimes they would say, and I say, you cannot judge a book by its cover. So, once you learn this piece of music, then you can tell me you didn't like it, but you got to learn it first. And sometimes when I was presenting a piece, for example, I remember when we did the bird Hec Dies, one of the first times I taught that, I had them count sing it, right? Mm-hmm. And I said, obviously a Robert Shaw technique. And so we count sing and we count sing and we count sing. And I had them begging for the language. This was early on in my time there when, this school had a persuasion towards show choir, which show choir is great. It's just not me.
Right.
And I kind of eased my way in. I accepted them where they were when I was hired. And, I can remember, I think back to that first year when we did Bye Bye Blackbird, and that was a stretch for us. But, moved on. And then I got to where I was going to sing, we're going to go Latin and other languages, but I'd have them count singing it until they were just like, and they would get it, they would learn it. But then they would say, please, can we have the list? All right, you can have the language. Here it is. And then, they walk out the door and they're singing Latin and they are loving it because they begged me for the language.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not sure what the original question was, but we had a good talk there.
I mean, I have to be careful because we could do this all night, but I want, what was your framework for approaching a rehearsal? Because I can see you with that lesson plan binder and the paper clips on it and that water jug with your straw. And it was always like, and we got it all done.
Well, I think something that was always successful for me was not spend, before that, take care of the stupid stuff early. Take attendance, announcements, get that done. Try to get that done in 5 minutes or less. Okay, then you do your physical warm-ups, and then you do your vocal warm-ups, and then theory. That's when I like to throw theory in. Obviously throughout the piece as well, but if there was some concept that we were working on. And but then when we got to the literature, I really never wanted to spend more than 10 to 12 minutes on a piece of music. And yet I knew, and I would oftentimes tell you guys, okay, we're starting at measure 34, and today we're going all the way to measure 52, okay? And so everybody at that point says, got it. I know what we're doing. I'm ready. So they knew. It's not like they didn't think I was going to keep going and going and going. They knew that was the chunk for the day. And then another great thing that I began doing that's a great thing is, I don't know if you'll remember, teaching in 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 parts, I would have everybody sing every part. Remember when we were just learning stuff? Everybody sing the bass line. Everybody sing the second alto line, Therefore, they're engaged. They're not whatever, they're engaged. They're working. They're singing. They're working on their sight reading. So yeah, and then just about the time that everybody's like really into that piece and saying, this is going to be all right, put that away, pull out this. We're starting to measure 5. We're going to measure 20. Okay. Who's got the melody? Take a look at it. Look at your music, because I wanted them to learn to see vertically, not just horizontally. Okay, I see what my line does. No, see what your line does in relation to all the other parts. I do always think that my piano proficiency helped me in my teaching, because I could look at a chord vocally written and know what it's going to sound like, and then hear it and know what note was out and know who had that note.
Right.
Tenors, it's you, you're flat, you know, or sopranos, you're pulling sharp. And I know that my ear was helped by my piano. So yeah, that was one. And I also really liked to do, after I've gotten the kids engaged and warmed up and so forth, that first song was usually the kicker song, the hard one. That was the one that we had the most work to do. That's just a me thing, because I like to get the hard stuff done first in my life, right? And so yeah, we would do that, and then we would save some, you know, lighter things toward the end of rehearsal.
Right.
So that was kind of my framework. And again, it was important to me to leave the rehearsal on a good note, to have them feeling, you guys feeling fulfilled, and happy, and wanting to come back for more. So I think that's, I always kind of saw myself as, or wanted to see myself as leaven that helped people to rise. So that's a look. But that's, you know, I think that's what we as teachers, whatever our subject is, that's who we need to be. We're not there for us. We're there for the kids. And then on the flip side of that, I will tell you that so many parents throughout the years said, you have blessed our family. You have blessed my child, blah, blah, blah. But I always told them, well, that's just very interesting that you say that, because I am the one that's blessed. I am the one that's blessed by these students that look to me. And what a responsibility, what a privilege, and what a joy.
Right.
To stand up in front of kids, and kids that wanted to be there, whether they actually really wanted to be there or not, they soon wanted to be there. And I think that good teachers can do that. I think that teachers that care can do that. And I think that teachers that care, that maybe don't have all the skills at first, because I certainly didn't, you can learn to do that. Oh, how much I learned through festivals and through the comments from festivals. And now it's called what? Music performance adjudications. Oh, how much I learned through
festival to me. My kids knew it as festival, and it was MPA.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And therefore, now on the flip side of that, as an adjudicator now, I take that responsibility very, very, very seriously. I try to build up, you know, because now we speak and write and the same thing, but I try to build up the choir, because I'm hoping that conductor does what I used to do, which is let you guys hear them, and I'm trying to build up and praise on the good things they're doing, all the while saying, so you're here, and that's fantastic. What you want to do is, you know, go there, da 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 da. So that's really important, I think.
Yeah. Again, and it goes back to that theme of your life of, you know, always raising the bar, always working hard. There's joy in working hard.
Yeah.
And I love what you said as well about being prepared and being yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. You know that students will see through a teacher in a heartbeat, So many students came to me and they would say, you know, it's so clear to us that you love what you do. And I said, I do. I'm so fortunate.
Right.
I love music. I love young people. And I really love hooking the two up. And I love to see it in their eyes when it happens. Their eyes show you what's going on in the heart and the mind. And, you know, at last count, I have, I think, 24, 25 former students that are teaching music in the state of North Carolina. And that's really wonderful. That's really wonderful. I can't tell you how many people call me on the phone on October the 1st. and what are the kids singing to me?
Ghost of Tom.
The Ghost of Tom. Yeah. Which I have since learned there's Ghost of John and there's all kinds of different ghosts out there.
Yes. I mean, it's like every choir teacher's answer to prayer if they know that, I think, because it's also like the biggest hook of a warm-up ever.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's fun for the kids and it's fun for you. And you can teach so many things through any warm-up. Sing it staccato, sing it vivace, sing it pianissimo, you know. Yeah. But we did have some fun with that one. That was a cool one.
I think you also did such an amazing job of blending tradition and freshness.
Oh, cool. Cool.
You know?
Well, yeah. You talking about through the music or?
I mean, everything, right? So there were those pillars of tradition, right? We knew that we wouldn't sing the Hallelujah chorus every year, but maybe about every 4 years. Same thing with like, I'll never forget the Bibel Ave Maria we sang my freshman year. But then, if you were going to audition for Capital Pride, our audition ensemble, you were going to sing Once Upon a Time, or Once Upon a Time, yeah. Graduation and every graduation I've ever conducted is still, it will always be Go and Find Your Dream. Is there any better other graduation song for that? I think not.
It was, to me, that was the perfect song. We did try out a couple others throughout the whole tenure there, but one of them I think was called Go with Pride. And I tried that one year because we were the Leesville Pride. And I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. But I knew already it was very trite. But we did it one year and then I thought, nope, never again, stupid. Just because I had the word pride in it. And then I did one called Roots and Wings, which I thought was great. But it was like, we've given you roots to grow and now we give you wings to fly. And again, it wasn't good. I felt like I was running a barbecue restaurant, to be honest with you.
Oh man,
those were the only two diversions from Go and Find Your Dream. So yes.
Like so much singing Valentine's,
Yep. Very important thing. Very important. Because you need to have fun through your music, right? And then to get out, how great is that for building a program for recruitment? Get out and let the other teachers, number one, know what you guys are doing in the choral world, in the choral classroom, and then the other students. I also, back in the day when I could have a men's chorus before block hit, my guys, it was always a relatively small class because it was younger guys, but we would do a lot of barbershopping. And the first thing we would learn is the happy birthday. And then there were a lot of years that I would get the faculty birthday list because I had that group right after lunch. And if it was Mr. Dinkenor's birthday, then he didn't know it. Yeah, good old Dink. He didn't know it, but we were going to find him because that little class could travel and we would walk all over the school and there we would sing it to him. And we always had to stop by the guidance counselor's office and sing to them because they loved us every time we came by. But that was super duper cool.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So I don't know if there's probably no way you remember this, but in between my sophomore and it was either in between my sophomore and junior year or my junior and senior year. One of those years is when our school switched to block scheduling. And I know like what a bear that was for you because it was, how are we going to handle this? How are we going to, and I think, this is an applicable story and lesson to be learned through this for any teacher, because any teacher is going to go through a scheduling change, but Lord heavens to Betsy, now every music teacher has had their schedule turned upside down.
Absolutely.
How did you navigate that?
Well, Dave Albert and I, once we could see it coming to us, coming down the pike, we went to then principal Richard Murphy, who's now passed away. And Mr. Murphy and Dave and I had a good relationship. And we just told him, we told Mr. Murphy, we said, I don't know how we're going to do this, but we have to find a way to be double blocked. And I'll tell you, I don't know many schools that do it now, but we had, every one of our classes was a year-long class. We had a prerequisite and a post-requisite for the classes. So beginning chorus, you took beginning chorus first semester, and then you took beginning chorus B second semester. Intermediate, Capital Pride. So all of our classes were year-long, even though they were on block schedule. We kept the kids, we kept the students. I'll tell you how we did that, because we knew when the AP classes were offered, what periods the AP classes were mostly offered. And then we worked around that, because we knew typically in your top ensembles, you're going to have a number of students. In fact, I was talking to a mother just the other day whose son was a Spanish major in college, and he had taken Spanish 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, he wanted to take the highest Spanish, and that class conflicted with Capital Pride, and he stayed with Capital Pride his senior year, and he missed out on that top class. But we were very fortunate. Again, I tell you, it was a special time. It was a real special time. My teaching time at Leesville with people like you. Look what I had to work with. How could it not have been successful?
It was, I do think, 1,000% biased, but it was an incredibly special time.
It just was. I can't pinpoint why, and I can't pinpoint what's different now.
Because it is different.
I do think it's different. I walk in my neighborhood, and I have a number of teacher friends from Leesville that live in my neighborhood. And I'll see them, and they'll just say it's not the same. It's just not the same. But okay, so not to be negative there. If I were still in the profession, I would find a way. To shut out the noise of everything else that's happening in the school, and deal with whoever walks in my door, right? And find a way to unite those voices and those hearts in the common goal of producing the very best music, teaching them what's the best music, right? Because remember how I would let y'all listen to recordings? Of course, this was way back in the day before it's now so easy to, but I would bring in, because thank goodness David had a CD of anything I ever wanted to to teach you guys, but I would bring in a very quality recording, because I have this fundamental belief that you cannot ask a child to draw a rainbow if he's never seen a rainbow. So I needed them to hear what I felt like was a superior recording, so that they could see what the product could do.
Right.
And I don't know if you can remember the times that, in all honesty, and a lot of this was on days when I was exhausted and just.
It's refreshing to hear that you had those days, because you fooled us so well.
Oh, no, I'd sometimes pass out a piece of computer paper to everybody. Okay, I'm going to play.
Oh, I do remember.
1812 Overture. That was one of my favorites, right? The Tchaikovsky. But I would play something, and I would say, okay, you're just going to listen to this. I'm not going to tell you what it is. Put your feelings out on the paper. Nothing is wrong. Nobody is wrong. Write what you hear. Now, that one was an easy one, because as soon as the cannons came in, everybody drew a cannon, But, and also I used to like to do similar, it didn't involve drawing, but with the text of a piece of music. Right. We've been studying it for 2 weeks, okay? Here's my favorite line as a teacher. Are you ready? Mm-hmm. Take out a sheet of paper and a pencil. I loved it. And the looks like, oh God, are we having a test? Take out a sheet of paper and a pencil. But, okay, look at the poem. We've been singing this for 2 weeks now. Look at the poem. You're going to have, I don't know, 15 minutes. Read it, think, ponder. Tell me what it's talking about. Nobody can be wrong. And then after that, then I would say, who will share? You didn't have to, but who will share? And then it was so wonderful to hear the depth of thinking that you guys had. It was amazing. And remember, we started doing this little thing, the Capital Pride. That was our clap when somebody did something like really, really deep that nobody had ever thought of. That, oh, that's a cool way to look at that.
Yeah.
And then, learning a song where we as a group have talked about its text and then musically talked about a line, a phrase. Where are the words? Where are the syllables that we're going to stress here? How's our line going to be shaped? Help me figure it out. Do this. Let's try it this way. Okay, let's try it another way. Which did we like better? Let them have some say into it, right? And then it became their piece of music. Another really cool thing that I began doing, cool to me, is the first time I would teach a piece of music that we really digested
Right.
and performed. Before we pass that up, I would take my copy of that, my copy, turn it to the back, pass it around, and have every student sign their name. Because then I look at that piece of music, I flip over and I see those are the first students I ever taught that piece to. And then, 10, 12 years later, I teach it again to another group. It's never the same. You know that.
Right.
It's never the same. But I look back and I see those students that sang that with me, that discovered that piece of music with me. Super cool.
I just am listening and I'm just so grateful. I'm just so grateful because I think that is the thing is like, I want every kid to have that experience and to feel that love because you were that love for me. Choral music changed my life.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what it can do.
Yeah.
And
it wasn't me. It wasn't just me. It wasn't just you, but it was literally, all of us. I can't help it.
Exactly right. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I grew up in a very white world, and the majority of my friends were all white. And I'm not saying we had an incredibly diverse chorus, but we did, at times. And I have very great friends from high school that, I keep up with kind of on social media. I don't keep up with a lot of people from high school, but still, and many of them were people of color that I would have never probably interacted with had it not been for choir, just because of how social constructs were set up, especially back then. And yes, today is similar and different, but it's what a gift.
Yeah, music takes down the barriers. It takes down the barriers, and the cool thing is that when you look at a piece of music, if you're a non-music reader, it's a lot of dots on a page. It's a lot of ink on a page with a poem. But if you are a music reader and then you join with other music readers and you shape it and you understand it and you understand where the emphasis, remember how I always used to say
on
that?
the right syllable.
On the right syllable, yes. Then you've got something that very few people have.
Right.
And that just, I don't know, to me, it opens our hearts and our minds to the world and to love more and to understand more. I just really think maybe I need to go to Congress now and see if I can't teach a piece of music. I don't know. What do you think? No matter where anybody stands, can we just sing together?
There's just nothing else truly like it in the entire world. And I think, so many of us have been at risk of forgetting that you know, we have moments and glimpses, right, where we don't forget it. And for me, especially at this time in my life, leaving the classroom of being entrenched in choral music every day, to not
Mhm.
be like that. And I'm sure you've experienced that as well.
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
it really changes your perspective. But now for all of us to be engaging in that on some level this year,
Mhm.
has been at times scary, but also what is that chance going to be like when we could all sing together without masks?
Yeah, isn't that just going to be glorious? Isn't that going to be glorious? I worried for so long when everything shut down. Is this gonna really affect negatively our ensemble music? You know, is this going to be the thing that takes it out of so many schools? And honestly, I don't think it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be. Kudos and my prayers go to all of the music, ensemble music teachers, all teachers, but particularly these um, that are hanging in there now. I talked with one just today. I talk with them very frequently just to let them know that I'm here and I'm supporting them as best I can. But I think there's going to be, Beth, such a thirst and such a hunger for what we knew and what we couldn't do. Um, who knows? I mean, it might just, we might be bursting at the seams. Wouldn't that be wonderful?
I think if ever there were a time for that to be, this is now. This is it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I
Um,
agree. I
and that's
agree.
exciting.
Hmm. And our teachers that are struggling through these times just need to hang in. This is, better days are coming. This is not forever.
Right.
It's lasted longer than we thought, and we've got a ways yet to go. But just hang in there doing what you're doing because I just feel like it's gonna just, I hope so.
Yep. Well, and I think even this conversation is an example um of of the fact they can still do today what is most important. Is choral music um a life-changing experience and something everyone, particularly those in our class, should, yes.
Hmm.
But what really is the life-changing experience is the relationships that you build and the work ethic that you learn, and choral music is just the conduit. And we've, you know, sat here tonight for over an hour and talked, and we haven't gone through quarter notes and tie a dot placed after a note adds half the original value of the note to the note.
That, just for those listening, that is the one rule that I had students memorize verbatim. And I have, I mean, how many years ago did you learn that?
A long time, 20,
Okay, we won't talk.
20,
Okay. What?
20, almost 20 years ago.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. But I have received wedding invitations from former students, and on the outside of the envelope, a dot placed after a note, and it has. Yeah, I wonder if sometimes I might have been a little too strict on that one. I don't know.
So that was mine. You know, I pity Maggie is my student, and she is a music education major and edits the podcasts. And
Cool.
you know, Maggie is probably being like, "Oh, I thought Miss Philbin just stole that from Miss Covington." You know, like all of my tricks are being exposed. I will say I made an addendum, and I now say a dot placed after a note or rest.
Oh, I like it. I like it. But then you'd have to have another couple of index cards. You remember what the game I used to play?
Oh, I don't remember. Now it has been 20 years ago.
Okay, all right, I'll give you that. All right, so I would, after I made you guys memorize that, a dot placed after a note and so forth, I took an index card and I wrote every word on a different index card. Okay, and I would get you up to the piano there. Give me two people, two volunteers. All right, come up here. I'd take the cards and I'd mix them up, and I'd say, somebody, you're the timer. Put this in order on the piano now. So they'd take those cards and they'd be going crazy. Dot placed after a note, and put them all together. And then they did it in 17 seconds. Okay, mix them up. Let's see who else can fix it better. That was a lot of fun.
I there's like so many fun memories of, just even the little things that are it's just, now one of my favorite stories, and we'll rag on her totally. I actually just walked with her last night, is Megan's
Uh,
Women.
uh,
And I had forgotten about this game until I had recently told the story, because you are the queen of like how to start the year game, or like activities and things like that.
take away the inhibitions. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So remind me again, because I didn't ever teach this one, because I never taught this one because, I didn't remember it, but it's the Miss Covington speak, you speak.
It's the name game. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's see.
Oh, that's right. Well, what's
What's the
the
name of
name
that
of that
clapping game? It's called Name
name?
That What?
Clap.
Name That. Oh gosh, it's kind of come back to me. Oh,
Is
what's
it
the name
clap?
of that clapping game? It's called Name That Clap. And then it was Miss Covington clap. No clap. I want a Beth to clap. Boom.
Beth
You would have to
clap,
take
no
that.
clap. I want a Daniel. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And there's little bit of physical clapping and so forth to it. So there's physical involvement. There's mental involvement. We're learning names. I used it like that to make, because again, it was not only important for me to learn everybody's name in the classroom, it was incredibly important for y'all to learn everybody's name in the classroom. And remember how in the beginning of the year, another thing, I did two things every year.
This I
One
did too.
Yeah, one was the circle, and we'd go around and say, I don't know, a lot of times I would say one thing you did over the summer, and it amazed me how many people traveled to Europe. But but anyway, another thing that we did is we got in a birthday circle. All right, this place right here, you remember that? This place right here is January 1. So March, January, February, March is here, June is here, September is here. So you go to where your birthday is, and then you make sure if you're 21 that 22 is here and 20 is here. And then we go around and see when your birthday was. So many people found out they had the same birthdays. Now, something that I didn't do in my teaching was, to actually recognize everybody on their birthday. If somebody reminded me it was a birthday, we sang, but I had oftentimes close to 200 students a day, and that was a whole lot of birthday stuff.
It's a lot of time, and not everyone loves to be recognized on their
Right,
birthday, or
right,
it
right.
could be a lot. So yeah, I love that. Also, the end of the school year, where we would write out all the names of the songs that we'd sung.
Exactly. And then play Name That Tune.
Yep. Yep.
I can name that song in 4 notes.
Yes. Name it in 3, and then doing that. I mean, that was, again, it's building in those, it's always like the small traditions too, that I think are so powerful. You don't have to have these big, these big things, but it's the
Right.
small stuff that makes a big difference. Um, it's easy to think, and I think that's good too for people going into new teaching settings, right? Where they might be coming up against a big tradition they don't necessarily agree with, or it's not in line with something. But building in those small things is really powerful.
Well, and that's where I think it's so super important to meet people where they are, you know. And yes, if I went into a place where there was a huge tradition that I did not want to continue, I'd have to think really hard. I didn't ever, in my 2 scenarios of teaching, walk into that situation. I walked into sort of failing situations both times.
Right.
So it was kind of easy to move forward. But I think I would have to think really, really hard if I stopped that tradition year 1. I might alter it somehow and dilute it just a little bit, or move its placement so it wasn't so important. And then later, generally just kind of work it out. If, I don't know. That's because obviously you don't want to offend, but at the same time, it is your program, and you are responsible for it. That's just anything that comes out of it, it's got your name all over it. Why it's not about you, it's never was about me, but it did have my name on it. So I wanted you guys to be good.
Right.
for yourselves,
Right. But I also think in showing that, you showed us, again, that community aspect. Everything in life has a leader.
Yep.
Everything. And you don't, it's not to, like, you don't have to agree always or believe, but like on some level, good leadership makes other people want to work hard and be better and band together. And that's what you were for us.
Right.
Are, not were, are.
And what did I say? Almost every concert to your parents. Number one, if you are disheartened by the youth of today or things, whatever, I challenge you then to come and spend one class period in our class. Now, I would be frightened to death if I thought they would really take me up on that. But I did invite them, because I wanted them to know that that is a place where they could see 45, 60, 80 people working together with one common purpose. So that was one thing that was really important that I always verbalize to the audience. And the second is that when we perform together, we're doing something that is far greater than any of us individually can do.
Right.
And that's it's the same with anything, in any team sport or whatever. But that's not to be taken lightly in life, because as I said long ago, we're animals created for community, and we have to learn ways to understand other people, get along with other people, and help other people help us be our very best self. And in so doing, help them to be their very best self.
I'm so grateful for you.
And ditto, very grateful and very proud of you.
One of the highlights of my life, it sounds dramatic, but it is true. And I was partnering with you last fall for 6 weeks sing.
That was a blast. That was a total blast.
And if you're listening and don't remember or are new and I don't remember or don't know, one of my passions, of course, is more people singing, and particularly people within the community, and making sure we are providing outlets for folks that sang in high school choirs to still connect. And there are great community choirs out there that do that. But oftentimes our schedules don't allow us the time to make a semester or year-long commitment. Or there's people that never had, this is another big burden on my heart. There are people that never had teachers like yourself, right? To instill that love in them for choir, and they want to sing in a choir. And where do they start and how do they start? And maybe their church doesn't have a choir, or they don't feel comfortable or anything like that. So providing it's 6 weeks, it's 6 rehearsals and a performance. And I think we sang even like 6 songs. And so Miss Cov came on as our guest conductor, and it was for a multitude of reasons, many of which were very selfish on my part.
No, I think that whole idea, number one, is fantastic. I think that day that you and I met for coffee and you first proposed that idea to me, I thought, that's brilliant. That's really brilliant. And then to be able to come in and work with you on that, and to see that the myriad of people that gathered for that, and then the people that came to the concert. And then I loved how you turned the concert into a very relaxed rehearsal, sometimes, and involved the audience, which in so doing made some of the singers who were not normally performers, it kind of relaxed them, and you started off that way. So that was really very brilliant on your part. That was a blast. That was a blast.
So many Ms. Cove students came back, many parents of students that said, and I love this, right? Like, I saw my kids go through your program for years, and now I get to sing with you. I mean, how cool. And then again, that audience engagement, because there is a fear of, it is nerve-wracking to put yourself out there. And we have to be open and accepting within our community if we want it to continue to grow as well.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And that closing song that you taught us, I love.
Yeah.
I love.
It is, it's so powerful. It's a piece by Muse, Mom Muse. Um, and so it's just talking about, it is time now, it is time now that we thrive. And it's all about banding kind of together. And I think what a powerful song for where we are at now as well.
True.
Can
True.
you fathom how amazing 6 Weeks Sing is going to be?
I know.
Anytime.
It's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome. People are going to just be craving what choral singing offers.
Yep. Yep.
So yeah,
And
that.
I got to watch my teacher again teach, and that was so amazing and so fun too.
Well, and then for Flip Flopped on the other songs, I got to watch you teach. And how cool was that?
I was probably, it's a little nerve-wracking, I'm not gonna lie.
That was great. It was great.
It was amazing. Okay, well, again, we could keep going, but I want us to close out tonight. But I do have, I'm some fun little popcorny questions.
Okay.
What is your, I will never program this choral piece song ever again?
Well, you'll probably be surprised when I tell you this. And I will, can I just say that it's at the high school level?
Yeah.
Okay. I would never, ever program the Bibel Ave Maria again at the hobby. I love it. I love that piece of music. It speaks to me. I have never heard a high school chorus do it justice. And I taught it quite a few times in those years. And I've heard other high school choirs sing it and beautifully. But there's a depth to that piece of music that I think is slightly above the high school level. And that's a Diane thought.
No, I love it. I love it. What is like one of your go-to pieces that you just could like program over and over? Yeah.
Oh, heavens. Let me think that one through. Sicut Cervus.
The Palestrina.
Yeah, Palestrina. Yeah. Yeah, there's so much to learn in that piece. And, a decent 10th grade chorus can sing that song and do it well. I think my intermediates took it to festival one year. And yet college choirs and community choirs sing it all the time. In church choirs as well. But yeah, I love that piece. Yeah. I love what it says.
Yeah.
I love what it says. And I love how it says it through not only the text, but also the music, which when there's that great marriage between text and music, and this is something that I learned through David and through his professors at Florida State. When there's that marriage, then you've got a fantastic piece. But if you've got a text that's very sad or deep and pondering, reflective, and you've got this trite, bouncy little melody, then you need to look another place, right? There needs to be a great marriage between the music and the text, I think.
Right. Again, it's a testament to to the unity story, right? Of just like people come together. So does text and music and the musicality that you bring out within it. Is there a piece that you have always wanted to perform that you never have?
Put me on the spot. I'm trying to think. Not that I can think of, to be honest with you.
I love that.
Well, I don't know if I love it or not, but I can't think of it.
And then this is just kind of in closing, is there something else that's still on that musical list? Maybe, so we just said song and we didn't have one there, but is there anything you're like, I would still, that's on my list to do? Or you don't even have to share. That might be a little.
I have some thoughts.
Yeah.
I have some thoughts. And one of them is, as we talked about it on the Zoom reunion, as many former students as possible to get together and perform a concert. That would be fantastic. I don't know when we would do it, how we would do it, where we would do it, but I think those are logistics that could be worked out. And I just think that would be a blast. Yeah, and I have some other things kind of up my sleeve. We'll see. We'll see.
Raising that bar.
Lifelong learner, hopefully. Trying to learn Spanish now so I can keep up with my grandchildren.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And I think that's a testament to, and if, you know, there had to have been that one like level of fear upon retirement. What was retirement going to look like? And I mean, I've even feared that even though I didn't officially retire from choral music, you know, we find our identity in being educators. Who are we without our classroom until we realize that our classroom is not a building, but it's our hearts?
So I think right there that you've just hit on something that's really important. And I think that we as teachers need to not give our entire identity to the fact that we're teachers. We need to realize and recognize that we are so many different things. We are sons and daughters and mothers and fathers and sisters and brothers, churchgoers, community workers, you know, all of those things and any other side jobs that you might have. And then, yes, you're a choral director, you know. I knew that turning in those keys to Leesville was going to be very difficult for me. But I also knew that I did it for the right reasons and at the right time. And I knew that when I turned those keys in, that Diane Covington was going to continue. Exactly what she was going to morph into and what that was going to look like, I didn't know because we don't know the future. It's been an exciting, 7 years now? It's been an exciting 7 years. I have gotten to conduct so many all counties and things like that that I would not have done. I just wouldn't have taken that much time away from my students. I can do that now. I can adjudicate. I can go into other classrooms just to help, just to be the leaven, just to hear and to help them rise, to give them whatever little tidbit or little, you know. Remember I used to talk about how a song is like a statue, and we start with this block of stone when we look at this piece of music, and then we chip away, learn the music, and then we get it and we see, oh, I see what this is becoming. And then just before performance, we do the final polishing. And then we present that. We know what it is and what it is to us. And we show it to the audience, to the world. And they get to see what it is. We hope they get to see. That's our whole purpose in that. And I say I'm not a performer, you know, but I do love that part. I do love letting that audience see what students can do and maybe get a hunger for it themselves, which we saw through the 6-week thing.
The beginning of quarantine, I reached out to a friend, and we are, I say friends loosely. I mean, we communicate at Joseph Martin. And I can't help but think of, you know, when we sang The Awakening with,
oh yeah, one of my favorites,
right? And when you get to the end, right, and it's let music live, and that like triumphantness, and I think that we are really experiencing waves of that, right? Like that darkness.
Absolutely. Let music never die in me, though. That's engraved on the plaque on my bench in my reading garden that some seniors gave to me one year after we did that. So I sit out in my reading garden and I see it right there. Let music never die in me. Forever let my spirit sing, right?
And that's what we keep looking for. Mm-hmm. It's that statue moment, right?
Absolutely.
Because we are the statue and the music is, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Oh gosh, thank you. It's so fun. You're a very good questionnaire. What are you? Interviewer?
Yeah.
You do a really good job of that.
Thanks. I think most people listen to the podcast on iTunes, but if you really want to see something funny, I mean, throughout this entire interview, it's just like my face is shining because I just am so emotional of just gratitude. Just gratitude and women, like women supporting other women. We didn't even touch on that. We could talk about that for another.
We didn't even go there. You're right.
But you have had such a profound impact on shaping me and shaping Choir Baton. I mean,
oh wow.
who would have ever thought, like, this would not have existed without you. And I am so fortunate to receive messages from teachers, receive messages from friends and folks that listen to this podcast and that are impacted by what we do with the teaching membership or even just connecting others on social media.
But think of how many people you're reaching. There's another thing that I do out in my reading garden, because I have these beautiful oak trees that grow over it. Sometimes I just sit out there and I look up and I see this strong trunk growing up, and yet branches, and all the branches have little twigs, because that's what teachers are. Teachers are the trunks. Our students are the limbs, and then they give birth to twigs, and on it goes. What's the famous quote? A teacher never knows, the reach of a teacher never knows an end. So it's a very, very, very honorable and profound profession, when you're in it and when you're not in it, because we need to support our teachers.
Right. And I think that's also the other benefit of being out of it now in a full-time type of capacity like we have been, and being able to appreciate it more, and then also support those that are currently there too. Both sides are important.
Absolutely. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to pop in, as different choral directors call me before performances. I need you to come spend the day with us, and I need you to hear this and tell me what I'm not, because it's so important to get fresh ears, right? Do you remember sometimes that I would go to the back of the room and have y'all sing, or else I would turn my back to hear y'all sing? Because we as teachers, we hear it over and over and over, and we look at it and we see these are my people that I love. And it's sometimes hard to be objective. So sometimes I would just turn away from y'all and hear you sing, and then I can be more objective. Then I can say, whoa, altos, what are you doing here? Or whatever. So I enjoy being a second set of ears, and going in and listening and telling them what they're doing great and giving them options. I'm not telling you what to do, but play with such and such, see what you think, because that once again engages the students in it, gives them that ownership.
Absolutely. Ugh. So if you are in North Carolina or have the budget to fly you anywhere in the world, travel again, reach out.
Absolutely.
And, you'd love to be in touch with them, and we will leave your social media. You love and your side business and all of that as well, your other passion, and everything like that, and to keep up with you and connect. And that one day when we do have a Choir Baton conference, I'm just saying there's gonna be a spot for.
Oh, that'll be awesome.
Come on out.
That'll be awesome. Retreat. I feel it.
Yes.
Be great, sweetie.
Thank you.
You're doing great work. Keep it up. I'm proud of you, and I love you.
Love you. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Choir Baton podcast. As a reminder, you can connect with us via links in the show notes. Make sure that if you're interested in the Choir Baton teaching membership, that you sign up for the wait list. The link is in the bottom of our show notes here, and you want to make sure that you are notified when I open up the Choir Baton teaching membership again to new members.